Good evening, everyone, and welcome to tonight's event. Hype Man, a breakbeat, a Hype Man, a breakbeat play post-show conversation with Lisa Simmons of the Roxbury International Film Festival and John Oluwole ADEkoje. I'm Rebecca Curtis, and I use the she, her pronoun, hers pronouns. I'm the public relations director here at American Repertory Theater, and I'm so excited that we are together for tonight's discussion. I'd like to start by acknowledging that the land that the Loeb Drama Center and Oberon, where Hype Man was filmed, occupy the unceded territory of the indigenous Massachusetts people. I am calling in myself from the land of the Pawtucket people, and I encourage you to investigate and learn about the indigenous land where you are calling in from today. And I'm going to post now into the chat a resource where you can do that. By way of description, I'm a white woman with shorter than shoulder length, dark brown curly hair that's sort of messy tonight. I'm wearing a purple sweater and I am seated in my guest room with a bookshelf to my right and two framed pictures on the wall behind me. I'd like to share with you ART's audience compact. ART is unequivocally opposed to hate and centers anti-racism as a core value. We expect everyone in the ART community, including our audiences, to uphold these values. And as such, we will not tolerate anti-Blackness or racism of any kind in our buildings nor at our online events. We aim to create an environment that is uninhabitable to racism and discrimination, and where all BIPOC staff, artists, volunteers, audience, and community are seen, heard, valued, and provided the opportunity to thrive. This work is only possible when we do it together. Thank you for being our partner in it. Tonight's webinar includes live transcription. You can turn this on by clicking the button at the bottom of your screen. And finally, you'll notice that the chat for tonight's webinar is disabled, but I encourage you to submit any questions you may have for John and Lisa in the Q&A box throughout the evening, as we'll save the last 10 minutes or so for them to answer questions from you. On to the program. As some of you may know, the streaming production of Company One's Hype Man, a breakbeat play by Idris Goodwin, that I hope many of you watched this evening or will watch later this month, is a result of a very special collaboration between American Repertory Theater and Company One Theater. Goodwin developed Hype Man with Company One through a series of workshops beginning in 2017, and it received its world premiere, directed by Sean LeCount, in January 2018. It went on to receive the Elliot Norton Awards for Outstanding Production by a Small Theater and Outstanding New Script. The hybrid theater and film version that we are running now at ART, featuring the original cast and much of the original creative team, brings the stage production into a new realm with illustration and animation by Barrington Edwards and film direction and so much more from John, who we'll hear from tonight. And so without further ado, I would like to welcome to the Zoom room our guests tonight, Lisa Simmons and John Oluwole ADEkoje.
Hello. Hello. Thank you, Rebecca.
Thank you so much. I will pop away now and join you again for the Q&A. Thank you both so much for being here tonight.
Well, thanks for having me.
Hello.
Hello, everyone. My name is Lisa Simmons. I am coming to you from the land of the Wampanoag and my people, the Nipmucks. I am a African-American woman, Native American, Irish-American woman, and also with Caribbean ancestry. I am fair, I am light brown. I have shoulder-length brown hair. I'm wearing a black blazer and I have a blurred background. So I am the executive director of the Roxbury International Film Festival, a film festival that has been part of Boston and Roxbury's history for the last 23 years. And I am happy to say that I've been part of it for that long. I am also a filmmaker and a producer, and I also work with artists and communities through my work at the Mass Cultural Council. So I am very excited to be here today to talk to my friend John, who I've known for quite some time, and we'll probably have a couple of giggles over some things that he doesn't even know I'm going to ask him. But I'd like to have him introduce himself, and then we'll get into some really serious questioning. John.
Yeah. So I am John Oluwole ADEkoje. I am Nigerian American. I'm calling from the Pawtucket land. I just watched Raoul Peck's
Oh,
uh, Raoul Peck's documentary. So when I say that, it means so much more. I'm a filmmaker. I'm a playwright. I'm a teacher. What else are we supposed to say? I've been at the Roxbury Film Festival from day one since I
yes.
came out of college. It's been the place to be. So I'm very excited to be here to really talk about Roxbury Film Festival and talk to Lisa. And whatever I missed, I'm excited about it. Let's just go.
All right. Well, you missed a couple of things. So
Okay,
let me start and let me sort of like frame John's life for you all. So a student of physics. I don't think
Yes.
people know that. And we're going to talk a little bit about that. A filmmaker, a writer, a cinematographer, a game designer, a mentor to young kids who are at BAA and other places to help them tell their story, a father, a husband, a very dear and close friend for many. And I am just excited to be here to have this conversation with you. I want to say that about being a physicist, because I don't think that people know, you don't talk about that. You don't talk about and how that sort of has influenced your work. But first, I want to first talk about your early years and your sort of journey to storytelling. Now, you were born in Minnesota,
Yes.
right? And born in Minnesota. So where you lived for the first 9 years of your life. And I just want to know if that, has shaped you in any way, being in the Midwest, knowing what we know of the Midwest today. And so can you just talk a little bit about that?
Yeah, absolutely. So the Midwest is different, obviously. I think what shaped me about the Midwest is just being really calculated. It's really knowing, I mean, people do that here, but knowing where you are and really defining where you are and just knowing exactly what to do. So I knew it was dangerous. My parents knew it was dangerous in some places, but it's so polite and so nice that you have to read past that. And so you begin to become a mind reader after a while. I guess the most famous place I went to was White Castle. My dad told me that was if he drove past a White Castle, he was in trouble. Now I hate now I can't even stand it. But I guess that was like a safe area where people hang out. And so I just like the energy around there. That's what my dad told me. So it's interesting, yeah. And then I went to school in La Crosse, Wisconsin. So also, so that combination, the Midwest, I know very well. Obviously, what's happening right now is more than unfortunate, but I'm not surprised by it.
Yeah. I mean, it's really interesting because you're right. The Midwest is a very different place. And you do come out with this feeling of everyone just Midwesterners are just really nice, and they're really open, and they're really, you sort of feel a sense of warmth when you're in the Midwest. But we know that in all of this country, it's not like that. It's not always what it appears to be. So that's why I was wondering, leaving at 9, oftentimes people will think that doesn't shape you, but 9 years old is you've already learned a lot. You've already been a lot of places, right? So
yeah, I was going to add to that. I do remember when I was about 8 years old, a police officer's kid was misbehaving, and I think he tried to punch me or something like that. And how they dealt with that was really take care of your African kid, that sort of thing. It was like, okay, it was very clear what was happening. Even at the age of 8, I still remember that. It was their police officer's kid, even though he was the one misbehaving, everything was put on me.
Yeah. And so then you moved back to Nigeria.
Yes.
And I mean, complete opposite. So how, when you moved back there and as you grew up there, how did your view of America change? Because I think like all of these things have influenced the stories that you tell and what you write. So tell us a little bit about that major shift of moving.
Part of the shift was forced, right? Part of the shift
Yeah.
is like Nigerians are like, yo, don't be bringing that stuff here.
Yeah, your American ways. Exactly.
So they're like, this is how it works over here. You have to say good morning to everybody. You have to do with your teacher. There's a certain traditions that Nigerians do no matter what. And so I had to relearn a lot of things. And I had to relearn how to tell stories, like you're saying. Like there were standard stories in America that I understood from watching cartoons, from just being around my friends. But going to Nigeria, there's a lot of metaphor, there's a lot of magical realism that's involved in the storytelling. And they're telling the story about the ancestors, and they have a way of connecting it. And they use magic realism to do so. And so there's that magical part that becomes really real when you find out what stories are really happening. The stories are not that far-fetched, but they're designed in a way where you can contain them and intellectualize them, but it's also about the past, the future, and then the present.
Wow. And so how long were you in Nigeria until you came back here to go to school?
Until I came back here. I was in England for a minute, but mostly I just came from Nigeria directly back to La Crosse, Wisconsin.
I mean, if people know your work and have sort of followed your work from your playwriting to your filmmaking, there's a lot of that in you, a lot of that sort of like American structure, and then the mystical realism sort of that's coming from that African storytelling. And I see a lot of the vividness in that, like in the way that you write and the way that you're bringing all of this stuff to the stage or to film. So can you talk a little bit about that, sort of like what you see when you write, because it's very visual and it comes across, and it seems to me, you know, understanding now your past and you know, the two worlds that you lived in, how that's come together.
That's such a beautiful question. This is probably the first time I can address this. Because most of the time when I've been writing this stuff, I felt people were deliberately not understanding it. And I felt like there's not an understanding that there's a connection between Africa and America, and how I was trying to play both things and expose the flaws of both places and expose the positive things about both places. And I felt that people deliberately were being lazy about how they were studying the work. And so, yeah, after a while, because when you first start, obviously you're trying to perfect your craft, or you're trying to make sure that the audience understands what you're doing. So of course, you're not going to say people are misunderstanding it. But after a while, after 10 years and you've been doing it, you kind of know what you're doing. And so
right. So, let's hope. Well, some people, you know, but yeah.
And so at that point, it becomes, this is a time to express. So I really, my roots in Nigeria are very, very strong. And most of my brothers and sisters lived there, and they didn't live in the United States. They came here later on. So my connection with them as Nigerians is very clean. And then me living here by myself for a very long time as well, as an American, those two things had to mix together. They couldn't be separate. They're the same story. So it's not like I had to split myself into two and be this person for this person and then be another person. I know a lot of people try to do that, but it's not healthy, obviously. So you try to combine it, you try to combine as much as you can. And then the storytelling becomes part of that. So they begin to merge together naturally.
And it does, and it is very natural. I mean, you don't, it sort of, it washes over you, right? That you don't even, it is natural. It's not easy. But you don't, and I think that that's what's really interesting about your work, is that's what makes it so engaging and so powerful, is that you're in this space with you who have written this from these two different perspectives, and you don't know why you're feeling this sort of like pull, but that's what it's from. I mean, I feel like that's what it's from, and it's just a really beautiful piece of storytelling. And your storytelling is very African in a way, right? Because it's circular.
Correct.
You know, you're always bringing us back to learn some sort of lesson.
Yeah, that's also part of the deal here, right? So my dad is a medical technologist. My mom is a physical therapist. If I'm gonna be a storyteller, it have to have some weight, because I can't go.
Oh my God, no. What? Yeah, exactly. What, you're doing rom-coms? You can't do rom-coms. Oh wait, you know what? I want to see that. Okay, that's the next one. A rom-com by John. Yeah, okay. Sorry, people. All right, so yes, so right, you definitely, but also you come from the traditional, you're Nigerian, right? You're gonna have that sense, you know, it's cultural.
Yes.
It's just so with every, you know, in culture, in you know, Caribbean cultures, it's, you know, it's the same. It's like, okay, you know, you want to be a filmmaker, but you better be the best darn filmmaker that you, and you better tell the best darn stories if you're not going to be a doctor or a lawyer or.
Exactly. So that was always in the back of my mind. They actually never told me that, but in the back of my mind, it was already built in. It's like, if I'm gonna do this, I'm gonna make sure that it means something, that it talks about my people, and my people has expanded tremendously. So I'm not just talking about Nigerians. I'm talking about African American. Those are the two groups, to be honest, that are super close to me, and then it started adding everybody else. It became a Pan-African thing, but it started with those two main groups, and then my storytelling evolved from there. So it's amazing. And then I know I'm trying to sneak. I'm not trying to sneak in Roxbury Film Festival, but it's only natural to say that even my short films from graduate school that just came there immediately were embraced immediately, and that was very encouraging. So it was also encouraging for my parents, because they saw that it went to Roxbury Film Festival. Not that they know about any festivals, but the fact that it wasn't an international film festival, then they start to think differently. It's like, okay, this is important work. So
and I mean, yeah, and I mean that was the whole, and that has always been the importance of the film festival, right? Is to give voice to the voiceless. And at a time when we started, people had films like your films that weren't the traditional, you know, beat 'em up, kill 'em, gang related type of films. Other festivals wouldn't take them because they were like, we don't understand this content. This isn't Black. This isn't what Black people are. And it's like, we're not a monolith, you know, and really giving people the opportunity to be creative and show multiple voices. And so yeah, thank you for saying that. I mean, yeah, we did. I think we've had all of your films in the festival. Yep. And then we talked about this, how I tried to get you to write me a script for like $1. Like I should have had darn, wish I had done that 10 years ago. Anyway, now it's gonna cost me 100,000. So anyway, what I do want to talk about, so we talk about Nigeria, we talk about America, but you also bring science, right, into the way that you make film. So you're a physicist, and you talk about how that plays a role too in your filmmaking. Can you connect that for me?
Yeah, I connect physics and jazz music. They kind of connect together in that they have certain structures. Like physics has very strict structures, but it's still artistic. It's still artistic. If you're coming up with a theory or a hypothesis of what do you believe, light or whatever your subject you're trying to study, there is a system on how you study it. And the same thing with storytelling. you create your own system, you create your own structure. And within that structure, knowing that you need a structure is very important. It doesn't have to be a Eurocentric structure, but it has to be some kind of structure. And then there's a belief system behind that structure, believing that within this structure, I'll be able to answer this, or I'll be able to pose this question. Believing that if I have this hypothesis in physics, if I structure it well, I'll be able to have an end result in the end. So those two things go together. And then with jazz music, same thing, is to have that structure. You know, sometimes they know what the song is, but then they begin to dissect it in very different ways to create a new meaning out of it. And I just find that how interesting all these different things, whether it's science, whether it's music, whether it's just storytelling in any form, they all have structure that there's laws behind. But then again, you begin to shift it. And when you understand, you begin to shift it and move it around, however you deem it's important to do.
Oh my God, I'm getting a little like stressed out. Like I feel like now I need to go get like a degree in physics or something because to be able to make my movie. But
you don't need that.
people are going, oh my God, that's like so over my head. Like, what is he talking about? All right, so I think that that's really important for people to hear. I think that's important for filmmakers to hear. I think it's important for audience members to hear that it's true, that it's not like when you go see a movie or you see a great piece of theater that there's this structure. There are laws and rules that go around that. But I like what you talk about is saying that you can create your own laws and you can create your own structure, but there needs to be a structure. So you've made this commitment to filmmaking. You've written plays. You've written movies. Hype Man, which we're going to talk about in just a few minutes, is a hybrid. So you know what is this commitment that you have to telling these stories visually? Why is that important? And is one more important than the other? Is film more important for getting that story out, or is theater, or So what do you say to that?
I won't say one is more important than the other, but I lean more to film. Obviously, I feel like images that we put out there in the world are so important, and that if we don't take care of them, if we don't think they're sacred, we're hurting the next generation. I know that I saw some images that I didn't feel were uplifting for me when I was growing up. And I think that there just needs to be a lot more films where people can see themselves for what they are and be proud of who they are, even when they're flaws. There's always an element that has to be positive, that has to be uplifting. And I just feel like film is super effective doing that. So with playwriting, it's just like, it's one of that sandbox where you really dig into story and you really develop character, you develop story in a unique way, because you only have that little stage up there. Right. You're not gonna be jumping around, cutting here, cutting there. And then you have to leave it alone. Like you can't edit it. This guy,
right.
You got the thing, you gave it to them, and they're gonna do whatever they have to do with it to tell the best story they can, but then it's done. With film, no, it's not done. It's
never done. You never feel like it's done.
Exactly.
But you can always go back and cut it and edit it. I mean, it's funny, as a former actress, it's like on stage, it's so much, it's dynamic and it's incredible because you know that that's your only moment and you're filled with so much energy and you have to move around that stage and create this magical space that the audience has to feel like it's constantly moving. Whereas in film, you can be in that one space and the camera moves around you and creates that space for you. So I do, that sort of leads us into Hype Man. I still have like tons of other stuff I want to talk about, but it does lead us into this sort of hybrid that you have created, with Hype Man. And I think we're going to show just a quick clip of that. I think Rebecca, we're going to show a quick clip of that. And then we're just going to go back and just talk a little bit about that, because this marries all of sort of like your work from, from when you started to now?
Excellent. Let's see this.
Man, doing all this, how am I supposed to take this any other way than straight out slight?
Whoa. Man, the song is not about you.
Oh, it's got subliminals.
Ain't this
He says, and I don't see no white rappers
we out here
standing
doing a
up.
song about police brutality, and you want to make it about you, but you ain't even come up once.
Better call your girlfriend, doctor lady.
See, Noor Muhammad.
Old Derb is back.
See, now, would you say that I've been angrier?
Come on, man. You've been bugging doing these power plays.
Stepping outside my road?
See, there you go again, making me out to be some kind of, like, Whitey McWhiteman. Oh, that's enough, you Negroes. Keep it down. Like, come on, man. I've been around black people my whole life.
Yeah, you've even had us over for dinner.
Yo, Verb, I swear to God.
Nah, look, bro, it's one thing to live around broke black people because you ain't got the money to
Oh,
run
you
off
saying you wouldn't?
in the
You saying you
suburbs
wouldn't have
with all
left
the other-
if you
But it's
had
another
the
thing to
money?
love us. It's another thing.
A few months back, you were the guy who... You were reckless. Now you Malcolm X? When does light switch get flipped?
Such a powerful piece of writing, and
Idris.
and acting. The actors, I really enjoyed this. But in addition to that, is the way you shot it, the way that you put it together, and you can feel the depth and the weightiness as if they're on stage, as if I was there in person. So how did you do that? Because I have seen plays shot, tried to be shot on film and presented as such, but this really, the way you use the close-up, the way you use space, and had us move around it as an audience member, feeling like we were actually still in a theater.
Yeah, so I have to start with Company One and Sean LeCount, because he directed the mess out of that. And so when I watched it, I watched it twice. I watched it twice in the theater, and I wanted to make sure that when we're shooting this film, that we get the same feeling. I felt we will not be successful if we don't get the same feeling on camera. And so my job was just to translate as much as possible what he did already on stage. And that's why I knew that I had to come super close to them, and I had to move that camera as much as possible and use the widest lens I could use, because then I have an excuse to go around. And so, yeah, so it was a choice of the lens and the choice of the style. Obviously, this was within my style of filmmaking in general, of moving the camera, making sure that the energy matches what the actors are doing on stage. And so that's what I brought to the table as much as I could.
Yeah, and I mean, it's so funny because you could have made the choice to, make it a more film-like and actually leave that space and go, follow them down the street or do whatever. But you made that choice to say, no, this is the space I have to work with, and really helping the actors find their marks in each one of those, in that space, as if they were actually on stage with an audience in front of them. And I just thought it was beautiful. I thought the lighting, the way that it was lit, also made you feel like you were, like I was in a box, like not a box.
Oh,
I didn't feel like I was in the theater. I felt like I was in that seat, and that I was, I was fourth wall, right? And so I think it's just incredible that people should understand that this is not, it's not like, oh, I picked up a camera and I decided to shoot people where they are. It was a lot. I can see the time and effort that it took to help create that space to make us feel that way.
Yeah, all the lighting designers, all those, Sean and the rest of the crew there, they did a wonderful job. I definitely wanted it to be a soft light that was going throughout the whole set so we could move the camera. because normally you know that we set one part, we'll set one scene up, light it, cut, and then move all the other stuff to the other side, light it again. That's normally how we just do cinematography, DP, and filmmaking. We take a lot of time to be meticulous about each single shot. But I wanted it to be flexible enough so that we can move around the set, which makes it easier for theater actors. So they can do almost exactly what they did before. They couldn't, but they almost
Yeah, right.
and feel like they had some freedom more, and the camera is just following them and just we're trying to dance together. That's what I was saying a lot. I was saying we need to dance together. And the actors have their blocking. We used a lot of the blocking that Sean already had. So we were dancing with what was available. We adjusted it when we had to, but the camera was dancing with them as much as possible.
Yeah, and I mean, I think that texture really comes through. So, so is this the next thing for you? Are you gonna like continue to do these hybrid like theater film things?
Yeah, I did one in Portland called Trigger with Keith Maskell.
Oh yes.
Yeah, which opened, I mean, 2 weeks before this one did, and it also got like greater reception. So I don't know. I still want to. I want to go into the sci-fi world. I definitely want to make that film. So right now I'm working on a film with Tony Okunbawa, who's like in the TV show Bob and Abisola.
Yes.
And then Decore, who's from Castle and Castle, Nigeria, which is one of the big TV shows in Nigeria. And we're gonna shoot a short film this summer here in Boston. So I think I'm gonna be bouncing around between the two, hopefully. You'll see.
Yeah, I mean, what do you think though? Do you think that this is sort of like the new, is this like the new kind of normal for filmmaking? And what are you seeing, post-COVID, post-pandemic, or not post, but I mean, filmmaking, theater, everything's changed. And we have no idea what it's going to be like when people go back into the theater. How many are going to go back? If people are comfortable going back, we still want to bring people this great content and have them feel like they're having a theater experience, because it's two totally different things, right? We don't want to get rid of one, but we do still want to be able to present these incredible stories. So I'm thinking that this type of thing is going to be around for a little while.
I think so too, and I think we'd be wise to embrace it, because it works at certain times. Obviously, there's certain kinds of theater that this might not work, but right. I think this should be part of it. This should be part of it. I always thought that. I didn't believe that film should be on one side and theater should be on the side. I think there are many opportunities where both languages could work together and tell a story even more beautifully than separately. And I have a feeling that some of the big theater companies will start having a little TV station in their things. Watch, you'll see.
Oh my gosh, there's a whole new group of jobs, editors, all that sort of stuff. I mean, I feel like it's more accessible, right? I mean, you're actually creating an opportunity to see something that you might not normally see if you didn't go to the theater, or if you couldn't get to the theater for whatever reason, that you can actually bring the theater to people. And I think that that's pretty powerful to be able to do that. And I think that that's important. And I think that, as far as film festivals and film screening series and all of that were traditionally like film, like there's completely a place for this type of sort of hybrid theater, film program and film product. I really do.
Absolutely. I think, especially at the film festivals, that's an interesting conversation, because all the filmmakers come to Roxbury Film Festival. That's one of the things they like, is that conversation with each other, getting to learn each other, and just bringing this to the table, where this hybrid thing that's happening, the conversation will be amazing. Because now we're talking about actors again, like this film acting, and then what is this? How do you direct in this kind of situation? That's very there's a lot of interesting things on the table that could be discussed in detail that I feel are very exciting at this point.
Yeah, I mean, I'm really excited by it. I know that a couple of years ago we screened a film that was a theater, that was a one-person play by Fanchon Cox, who did One Drop of Love, and I was amazed by the way they took her one-woman show and created a film out of it by just the same way, by cuts, doing it in that one space, keeping sacred to that one space, that theater space, but really being able to bring it to life. And I think that, you know, it got to be seen by so many more people.
Correct. Yeah, which is, like you said, is very important. People, you know, it's more accessible, meaning more people can see it, meaning younger people can see it. We're all saying we want younger people to be part of the arts, but they don't have access to watching all this stuff that's happening. This is the opportunity to do so. You can give different schools access to these things so they can watch it and be more engaged in it and see themselves in it. So I'm not taking that for granted either. I think there's a lot of opportunity there where people can help.
And I think that, you know, it's true. I mean, you have done an amazing job working with your kids at BAA, and we are always really excited to screen their films at RoxFilm, because we really think it's so important, this next generation. And they have so much to say, and oftentimes the films will come in and I'll be like, wow, like that's incredible. Like that's an experience I didn't know, or, you know, they're so much wiser beyond their years, whether that's good or bad, I don't know, but it's just beautiful. Gives them a beautiful opportunity to tell their story and do their storytelling through a medium that is theirs, right? They're,
right.
You know, video is how they view the world. It's how most of us view the world. I mean, we see our stories, whether it's on the nightly news or it's through Netflix, or it's, you know, whether you're seeing it on your phone or whatever. I mean, that's where stories are getting told, and that's why it's important to be able to have this medium and maybe have the two of them come together so we can see more of those stories.
Absolutely. And they're also going to be reinventing how we are looking at this, because they grew up in a different era. This is social media era, and the way stories are being told on the little phones and told, it's beginning to change dramatically. It's actually, there's going to be some stuff coming up that'll be.
I know. Well, I mean, what's exciting, I mean, the thing is that you don't need the $50 million anymore to get camera equipment and lighting. I mean, there's so much more flexibility, as you said. I mean, you have little tiny adapters that go on iPhones that have lighting, that you have your ring light that you can create a whole movie around. I mean, it's just, I mean, and that's what's exciting, because we're going to see all these different voices and all of these different stories that we might not have ever seen before, because someone was just like shooting them and putting them in their basement. They weren't good enough to get on some stage or some screen or somewhere. And that's what's exciting to me, is that, you know, we're seeing a lot of that stuff coming in for Rox Film Festival, and that's where it gets exciting.
Well, that reminds me of when I made Knockaround Kids. I came to you, I was like, I want to shoot this on film and blah blah blah, because, you know, I'm a film school person. And you're like, you know what, just get a camera and make that film.
Well, look, you listen to me. Oh my God, if you guys haven't seen Knockaround Kids, you need to. It's a great doc that John did on foster care system. And where can they see it? On
Amazon Prime, Google, Prime. Don't know those things, those platforms.
Right. And I mean, yeah. And I mean, that's the other thing too. Distribution is we could go forever and talking about distribution now, and you know, the importance of being able to see these there, but how they're being picked up. And that's a whole nother thing too. It would be really interesting to see, you know, how many people are doing this type of hybrid hype man type of product, and if it gains legs for distribution. So that's going to be the next thing to be able to see.
That's what I'm hoping for this product.
Yeah.
Is that it does have legs for distribution, because I think we talked about this 2 days ago, about it being a hybrid, and not specifically saying that it's a film in itself. It's combining two things together, And so that's what's attractive about it. That's how you watch it. That's how you study it. And that's why you understand that this is a different lane. This is a beautiful lane that a lot of people might join.
Yeah. So let me ask you, as we're wrapping up here, what does success mean to you? I mean, I think you're pretty successful in what you've accomplished in the films that you've made. But what does that mean to you? Or does it not mean anything to you?
I have a corny answer, but maybe my answer for success is just to keep perfecting what I'm doing and to keep understanding what I'm doing. So I understand better now than ever what is important as far as the storytelling I'm doing and how can I do it the best way I can. And I'm finding it a lot easier to connect with people all over the world who understand what I'm trying to do to make the next thing. So I consider that success, but I'm always questioning how I'm making something. Am I making it the best way I can, or most effectively as a producer, am I using the money wisely?
Right, yeah, right. That's me. Where's that 50 cents?
Exactly.
What do you spend that on? Really? You can't do that. We're not going to be able to go to post. All right. Well, I mean, I have had a wonderful time conversing with you. I could talk to you all night, but I know we don't have time for that. So we're going to bring Rebecca and see if there's any more questions. But
well, this has been amazing. I too could listen to the two of you talk all night. And in fact, we've gone a little longer than we had expected, but it was totally worth it. And I think to hear you all talk about success here at the end is a beautiful way to conclude. So I will share questions that came in with you, and we'll see if there's a way that we can get some answers back to folks. But I want to thank you both so much, Lisa and John, for being with us tonight. And John, thank you so much for your work on this powerful, urgent, important play. If people haven't had the opportunity to see this film theater hybrid that John has made with Sean McCount and an incredible team of artists and technicians, we'll pop a link in the chat before we conclude so you can make your way to it. And I thank all of you who are with us tonight for joining us. Thank you again, Lisa and John. It's so great to be with you.
Oh, thank you. That was fun.
Thank you, Lisa, for that. That was great.
And we can't say enough about Company One and ART.
Yeah.
You know, I have a deep, deep love for Company One.
May the collaborations continue, and we wish you all the best with the film festival this June, Lisa. And we'll be sharing information with our audiences, of course, about how to partake in the film festival.
Absolutely, and thank you again. This is great. And go see Hype Man. It's wonderful.
Thank you all. Have a great evening. Good night.
Right.